Hello everyone, this is Tony D, and today I want to be giving you an overview of an app I just created. The app's intent is to familiarize users with events, risks, and also gives them a planning tool to help travel throughout the continent of Africa. I'll go over these in some detail, but the important takeaway is that this tool helps make the huge continent of Africa a little bit smaller by way of understanding and knowing what's going on and events and state actors and everything else that's needed to know to familiarize with the continent itself. Before I get into the app, I want to deconstruct the tool a little bit. The tool was made by Experience through Experience Builder, and Experience Builder hosts embedded two dashboards and a web mapping app. The dashboard app, the first dashboard app consists of events, current events, and has 10 elements and one web map. The second dashboard is the risk dashboard, and it's comprised of 9 elements and web map, and an interactive web mapping tool that helps location and driving times in certain areas has 5 elements and 1 web app, all of which have about 22 features. 15 geoprocesses were used, and there's 2 standard user interface geoprocesses. All right, back to the app. We're on the landing page. It gives a quick overview, and you just dive right into events. Now the events, this one is called the African Event Dashboard, and it goes back to 10 days because that's what the data provides. It'll give you a push every few days, and it goes far back as 10 days. So as of 13 August, the last 10 days, there was 866 fatalities throughout Africa. Two primary feature services were used. One data set relates to the armed conflict and location and event data project. The armed conflict, I'll get into that a little bit, but it really gets down to what battles, what attacks, what riots, what country, location, all those attributes and variations could be made and filtered so that way the user can see or can adjust to his or her preference events. A few things to lay out here. One is the select by country. So if you're interested in a country, for example, Sudan recently had elections several days ago. They're counting the votes. And what we're looking at are protests. Are there major protests right now that we should be concerned about? Well, Sudan right now, I'm not seeing a lot of protests. And the counter right here, the 7-day protest counter, isn't really signifying anything. But we can drill further down and just select protests and know that here are all the protests. And most you'll see, many are peaceful protests. Very few protests with resistance that are tied to the election itself. Okay, to resetting these, you want to take another look. And as another example, we're going to take a look at Somalia. We drill down to Somalia. There's 186 fatalities within the last 10 days, of which 59 actors were involved. Using Arcade, was able to provide a script that highlights and flags the IEDs. We could have done this for anything, but one thing that I'm interested in is the IED suicide bombs. Let's take a look at this air drone strike and see what that involves. 29 July, Ethiopia Security Forces conducted this. There were four fatalities, and they were acting upon Al-Shabaab militants. Let's say we want to just see just actors, what Al-Shabaab has done. We can see right here 107 fatalities in the last 10 days just for Al-Shabaab. And then there's that IED as well. Claiming 2, August 3rd, and vehicle-borne IED against Somali National Army. Okay, so that's some of the filters that you have with this. Other events that you can look at. You can drill down to events by country, or you can do it by region, and you can also do it by type. I showed you protests earlier. So the ACLA data, sometimes you'll look at this data and say, what does this 866 mean? Is that good, bad, and different? Well, pulling historical data, I was able to drill in here and show the user, hey, look, typical for the month of August, 1,800, for example, just for Somalia. It wasn't easy filtering this way, but I was able to figure it out eventually by setting the filters using one feature layer name, country name, to another feature layer on the historics. I'll show you on the other dashboard. I did it a different way to make it a little bit easier and seamless. Okay, back. Moving on to the risk dashboard. The risk dashboard is constructed and it has many, many layers, but one important layer that's used, in fact, two, the fragile state index, and that is an index scorecard that has 12 different indicators, and the higher number for each of these, the worse the country. So using similarity search, spatial analysis, when applied with coup data, help yield a fairly good model, and this is a model you see, ranking worst to best as far as risk. So Sudan being the worst, and then it's going all the way down, Botswana being the best. So Sudan, why is it the worst? Well, you have the most coups for one, but also if you look at the index scores, the FGI, Fragile State Index scores, you'll see the scorecard for this, they're pretty high. The higher the number, once you get in the hundreds, 105s, the higher the rank. Now they're ranked, Sudan's ranked 8th in the entire world. For this purpose of this study, they're ranked number 1. And it goes on and on down, all the way down. So looking at these scores, having 2 coups, for example, in Egypt, doesn't necessarily mean that you're good, because there's other countries here that have 2 coups and that are ranked higher than others. Other things that you can do with this is filter out by historical colonial ties. Why this is important, because it helps you break down where all the English-speaking countries, Portuguese, so forth, but also in the year they gain independence, give you a good idea of the historics with that. For example, the 1960s, the year of Africa, decolonization of a large amount of countries in Africa. In fact, there's 18 of them. Here they are, right here, 133 coups total. Now the story map gets into great detail and gives you resources of where you can find the analytics and the model for this. But I will say, between this and the other dashboard, the event dashboard, having one feature filtering one feature all the way down by each action makes it much easier than having multiple features across cross-feature pollination, if you will. The final dashboard, and in conclusion of this, is the plan dashboard. What this is, it's an embassy travel distance planning tool. And from previous exercises, I was able to pull from the State Department all their embassies. And not only just the embassies, but I was also able to pull all the C-130 capable airfields. So if a user comes here, he or she will know, hey, here's an embassy and this is the most direct route. Here's the routes, how to get there, and here's how long it takes. Now, in addition to this, they can establish driving times by embassy. So if you have the U.S. Embassy in Africa, or from the airfields, you can set a driving time, we'll say 1 minute, give it a unique name, and then run your analysis. It'll yield the driving time of how far you can go in 1 minute. So that way you have multiple evasion routes if needed. Hey, I can have it by boat because I can make it to the port from there. And here's the final result. So within a minute, you can drive. You cannot make it to the water. However, you can. There's areas here that you can see. This is going to conclude. This is the third app, and will conclude the briefing. I just wanted to thank you for your time, and additional information will be on the YouTube channel and also on the story map. Thanks so much. Out of here.